Okay, I think we are good. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Mariah Bruner. I am UCA's Wellness Coordinator and I serve faculty and staff. This is part 2 of a 3-part series focused on wellness topics pertinent to UCA faculty members. And before I get started, I just wanted to let Be Well participants know that if you want to receive lifestyle reward points for this session, you can simply take a screenshot or a photo and submit that on your account on My Health Check 360. Or if it's easier, you can just email me after and I can send you a little certificate of attendance, whatever is easiest for you. So before we get started today, like I said, this is session 2 of a 3-part series. I just wanted to briefly review the concepts that we talked about in the first session because they provide a really nice foundation for this session. So last month, I made the case for faculty wellness. We discussed how faculty play a key role in reinforcing a supportive environment for health at UCA. And we discussed how a health supporting environment is one in which stakeholders collaborate in order to expand protective factors and campus strengths, and then reduce personal, campus, and community health risk factors. And this is important because in the higher education setting, good health enables student learning and success. And so this aligns with our mission. And we looked at this graphic that really underscores that every person on a college campus impacts the well-being of the campus community. And it takes an entire campus community working together to create and sustain a culture of wellness. And faculty are a crucial part of this campus wellness ecosystem. And we know that campuses are not just the classrooms, the dining halls, the dorms, and the libraries. Our campuses are rooted in relationships, and these are these powerful connections between students, faculty, and staff. And the social ecological model of health helps us understand how these layers of influence intersect to shape a person's health. And we also talked about social cognitive theory or social learning theory, which reminds us that there's power in observational learning or social learning, and faculty play a really critical role in shaping the student experience because you model behavior for students. And so you do have the power to influence negatively or positively. And we also looked at some data from the National College Health Assessment that was conducted at the University of South Carolina. And it is clear that students understand these concepts and they believe that the health of university faculty and staff impacts student learning and success. And so we had a really good conversation. We talked about, we had a really good conversation using the new resource that's available called the Campus Wellbeing Guide. And the conversation focused on three main points: prioritizing self-care, reducing the stigma surrounding the topic of mental health, and normalizing help-seeking behaviors. And then I also underscored that in order to move the needle in terms of campus wellness, we can't do that without addressing the work that needs to be done with diversity, belonging, inclusion, and equity. And this is because just and fair inclusion into society is absolutely essential for people to participate, to prosper, and to reach their full potential. And we looked at this campus wellbeing framework, which nicely incorporates the social cognitive theory and the social ecological model of health and the interplay of campus stakeholders, and it contextualizes all of that to the campus community. So I really love this graphic. And this framework introduces different dimensions of well-being or campus vital conditions, and how the vital conditions work together to produce well-being at institutions of higher education. And we ended the session with this question: how will you invest in your personal well-being in order to further develop and sustain a culture and environment of wellness at UCA? And I think that's a nice segue into today's topic, which is achieving work-life balance. So our learning objectives for today we are going to define work-life balance. We are going to learn to identify what we can and cannot control to create a more structured routine that reduces distractions. And then we're going to explore some time management tips and ways to achieve a more balanced lifestyle that prioritizes time for self-care. So first of all, and anybody can jump in here on the chat, or you can unmute yourselves, whatever you want. What comes to mind when you hear the phrase work-life balance? I'd love to know.
Usually when I hear that, it means that someone is not achieving it, and work typically wins out. And people are trying to figure out how to do better.
Yeah, love it. I think I saw something in the chat. Let me try to get up there. Boundaries, yes, good. Work-life balance equals not suffocating from workload. Yeah, I like that. Yes, yes. Okay, those are really good. When I was preparing for the session, there's been a lot of research on the topic of work-life balance in academics. And I found that a lot of faculty members hate this term, work-life balance, because they just feel like that phrase just really does not capture like really what can be achievable in that space. And so a lot of people really prefer more like work-life integration. So I thought that was really interesting. But I love all of your examples as well. Those are really good. Okay, well that starts off our conversation. Thank you for jumping in there. So for this session, I really like this definition. A work-personal life balance means controlling the amount of time allocated for work to make time for yourself, family, friends, or leisure activities. And I'll say I really like this definition because it includes a really important word, and that's control. So I want to talk a little bit more about control and how to build self-efficacy as it relates to achieving work-life balance. Okay, so if you read the screen, you're all probably like shaking your heads. I can see a few of you that we've all heard this excuse before. I don't have time for fill in the blank. I don't have time to study. You probably hear that from your students. I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to cook. I don't have time to take a break. Okay, we've all heard that before. So we're all busy, totally get it. And oftentimes that's true, right? There's days that we just don't have enough time, totally get it. Especially during COVID, right? Our lives are just totally different than they were 7-8 months ago. And sometimes it's just survival mode. So I totally understand it. But it's also true that we can afford to take a step back and we can ask ourselves, are we managing our time properly? And are we managing our time efficiently? So we're gonna dive more into that now. And I love this quote. So I'm going to read it really quickly, and then I'd love to just hear your initial reactions to it. So this is from David Perlmutter. He's a professor and dean at Texas Tech University, and he wrote, "To get your work life under control, you must first recognize that the problem is controllable. To view yourself as a martyr to work, fated to slog through the faculty years, overburdened with cares and labors, is an exercise in self-indulgence. Does that attitude get the work done any faster or better? Does it free up an extra hour to type a paper or play Scrabble with your kids?" Real quick, reactions to that. What do you all think about that? Strong reactions? About right? What do you think? I'm kind of one of those people that I really like straight shooters. And I can tell I probably really get along with this gentleman. I think he shoots it straight. I think he says it like it is, and that we have to recognize that there's control in the situation. Anybody else have any comments before I move on? It's okay if you don't.
I just think when you first read this statement that it first you say, oh, maybe take offense with it,
Uh-huh.
Step back and look at it, it really is true. It's so easy, and maybe even within cultural norms today, to kind of take that viewing yourself as a martyr,
Yes.
and kind of take that and not really even realizing that we're doing that. When it's just,
Right. Yeah.
didn't have all this work to do, if I just, just can't do, instead of, it's harder, it's much harder, like you said, to step back and say, is this where I am? And to take
Yeah.
ownership of the attitude that we're taking towards work. But the only way to move forward and what we need to do is to step back and take ownership of where we are and the attitude that we've taken towards our work. When we do, then we can begin to build what we need to do to find a balance in this idea of work-life balance.
Yes. I like that. I like that a lot. Thank you, Cynthia. We've got a few things in the chat. Okay, so someone said the problem is it's not controllable. I have certain dates that things must be published for the students to work, and those dates aren't negotiable. Yes, Garth, that is true. And I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. Faith said, I don't see how it is an exercise in self-indulgence. Timelines are frequently dictated. True. First of all, I totally expected a negative reaction to this, by the way. So I totally get it. It's a very strong point of view. Sandy said, if you do not think the problem is controllable, you will not look for a solution to control it. That's good advice. Okay, so hang in there with me. Those of you that had a pretty strong negative reaction to the statement, hold on. We're getting there. We're getting there. So I love this quote because I do think that he's right. I think that we can agree that being a faculty member is a demanding career. No one's going to argue with that. Absolutely not. But we do have to harness and control the things that are controllable to make it a productive and a joyous career and to enable us to have an enjoyable personal life. And so there are many things in faculty life that you cannot control, as I saw in the chat, those things that were shared, absolutely 100%. You have deadlines that are dictated, you can't move those. Got it. There are a lot of things, but is everything not controllable? No, there are some things that are. And so we just have to realize that we can make a plan to include pockets of protected time. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about sort of how we can do that. So you can decide on where your preferred work environment is to get things done with the fewest obstacles. And you can call this your Walden. So this might be a literal cabin in the woods like Thoreau's, right? Or it could be your campus office. It could be a quiet room in your home. It could be a favorite coffee shop. In the age of COVID, this might actually be two different spaces. So just to allow for some flexibility. So, but you do have the option of sort of, figuring out where that space is, that protected space where you're going to have that focused time. And then you're going to want to look at your schedule and you're going to carve out protected time to concentrate in that space. So I'm pretty sure, hopefully, I may be wrong, but I don't think any faculty members at UCA are required to be at their desk with the door open every single day, Monday through Friday, the entire time you're on campus. I would say devote a set time each week to do your heavy concentrating without checking email or answering the phone. And I mean, literally, like, turn off your email notifications, silence your phone, pause your inbox, whatever you need to do. And I would really suggest trying to find a day or at least a half a day each week that you don't schedule any meetings. And I know that's really hard to do, but if you can, then you've got this dedicated sacred period of time. And then you really only need to surrender that unless there's a crisis. If there's a true crisis, sometimes you've got to do things, but there is a way to carve out that protected time. So I would just encourage each of you to try to find a way to do that. And then another tip is to start with a mindset ritual. So this could be like, let me back up just one second. So it's about scheduling your time too. This is really important. So a lot of you talked about deadlines. We do want to make sure that you are looking at that long-term planning and use a project chart. There's a lot of different tools out there that can help you with your long-term planning. So use a project chart if that's helpful. And don't just list the task, list the deadline, and keep yourself organized. And then of course, using a calendar for your weekly and your daily appointments. I'm pretty sure all of us are doing that, but some of us who are really disorganized maybe aren't so good at that. And so just encouraging you to use that resource. And then trying to have your schedule set for the next week, either like the Friday before, which I know is probably asking a lot, or at least the night before. So, on a Saturday or a Sunday, try to think about the upcoming work week and set your plan for how you're going to use that time for each of those dedicated work sessions. And then you want to make sure that you're accurately estimating the time needed for each of those tasks. So let's go back to the mindset ritual. I had skipped ahead, I apologize. So for the ritual, I would just say this could be like a quick mindfulness meditation session. I mean, real quick, it could just be like a two minute thing. It can be a breathing exercise. It could be filling your water bottle, doing like a standing stretch exercise, and then reviewing your to-do list before you sit down. Whatever it is, I just encourage you to find a routine so that your body knows like, okay, this is my protected work time. You can get into that mindset to focus and to be absolutely as productive as you can be. It'll just trigger your brain to know like, okay, we're going into that mode right now. And so now we can also talk about controlling home time. So just like our work time, our time at home is also controllable to some degree. And now everybody, you have to understand, I have two young, very unpredictable children. And so I totally understand that home life can be crazy. So I'm right there with you. But as we've already discussed, I do think that there are many things that we can control to provide structure, to facilitate productivity and fulfillment. And so it's kind of the same thing. So you schedule that protected time for your family and friends. And with COVID, right, we all have to understand that work-life balance does not necessarily mean work-life separation. Okay, that's kind of, if the lines were blurry before with faculty with that, now they're completely muddled with people working from home. So I get that. But knowing that and accepting those blurred lines and what we've already talked about, you know that you have the power to establish where you will work at home and when you will work at home. And having a designated space at home to work that's just for work is really important in reinforcing those boundaries for yourself, but also for your family members. So I'm just trying to give you some tools in your toolkit for providing that structure for the things that you can control. Again, it's not 100% controllable, but the things that we can control, we can work with that. Okay, and so this session is not going to be complete without addressing self-care. So work-life balance cannot happen without it. And your wellness matters, because we already talked about this. What we learned in last session is that you model behavior for students and you contribute to the overall culture of wellness on our campus. And so in order to invest in others, you have to invest in yourself. Sounds cheesy, but it's true. And so I encourage you to go through the same exercise in order to prioritize taking care of your personal needs. So that means you're going to discover and stake out your preferred me time space. So where is your Walden for your personal needs? And then you're going to carve out protected time just for doing the things that rejuvenate, re-energize you, that sort of fill you up and allow you to keep going. Like they give you that real deep sense of fulfillment. So that could be playing or listening to music. That could be exercising, going for a walk. That could be drinking a cup of coffee and reading your favorite magazine. Whatever that is for you, then do that. But again, you want to have a space for that and you want to have the protected time for that. And I say SMART goal, or bringing up SMART wellness goals again. I think a lot of you that are in my sessions a lot have heard that time and time again, but they're so important. So you have to set these SMART wellness goals to improve your success. So you need to have a plan that specifies where, when, and how you will do what you intend to do. And everything I'm talking about right now in terms of self-care, that's a wellness need. And so that SMART wellness goal planning rubric, which is available, I can send it out to you all, and it is available on the BeWell website, uca.edu/BeWell, on our resources tab. It just will help you figure out exactly where you want to go and then your path to achieving that. And so I encourage you to check that out. It'll be really helpful. Okay, so I want these sessions, when I talked to Dr. Hawkins, we wanted this to be not so much about me talking at you for an hour. It was really meant to be more of a discussion so we can learn from each other, share experiences, tips and tricks. And I have a lot to learn from you coming from the staff side. I'm not faculty, so I don't have that perspective. I've worked with a lot of faculty clients in the past though, and so I do believe that I can speak to a lot of what I've talked to you about today. But let's open it up. I would love to hear what are your barriers to work-life balance? And this is a judgment-free zone. Feel free to put it in the chat or unmute yourself and share. And I know there's some staff on this session today too, and this applies to you too. What are barriers to work-life balance for you? It can be anybody on the call. Does everybody have it all figured out? That would be amazing. I heard a lot about deadlines in the chat. Do you feel like you're just chained to deadlines? Is that, oh, here, let's see. Okay, sorry, the chat was delayed on my end. I apologize. You guys were right on it. My work list is always longer than I seem to have time to complete. Yes, Faith, got that. My work never stops, so I have to literally stop working to make time for my family. Yep. I felt like there's not enough time to get it all done. Yes. And I need to do better at scheduling time to prepare for my Journeys to Success class. Okay. Yeah. For sure. So here's one more. Changes in schedules or unpredictable situations. Absolutely. So I can comment on a few of these. So prioritizing is going to be key here. So we talked about carving out the space, carving out the time, and then structuring that time and planning ahead. So I would say, it comes down to that project list and prioritizing. So if you are not currently organized enough where you have a list of all of your upcoming deadlines and all your tasks, I encourage you to make that list. It can be in a notebook, it can be on a whiteboard, chalkboard, whatever works for you. It can be on the computer, on an app, whatever. But I think it's really helpful to have that tangible action items list and then to be able to move things around and order them in order of importance and prioritize. So I think that, because I'm going to argue here that some things just don't have to get done right away. So you just need to make sure that you're aware of that. And when you can push something back, even 10 minutes, so that you can take a little stretch break and walk around campus for a few minutes to clear your mind, then that you're not, you're still feeling like you can do that. And you guys are so encouraging in the chat. Thank you. Someone was encouraging another attendee. That's wonderful. Yeah, let me go back here. So what do you think about this? I mean, these are not groundbreaking things that I've shared with you today, but I think that they're good reminders. Do you feel like any of you will take sort of this checklist back and be able to apply it to your schedules. Is that doable? Totally not doable? I mean, I would love to know. Have we gotten to the, oh, go ahead.
Oh, excuse me. That's okay. I was going to say, and the reason I didn't show myself is because I've been eating while we talked.
It's totally fine.
To watch me eat. But one thing that everything that you said, you know, is very good, and all the scheduling and everything, which I do. But I find sometimes the biggest barrier that I deal with is, and I have all of these, you know, changes in schedules and the unpredictability and stuff, is my own procrastination.
Yes.
Because many times there are things that I could do in a day, and I have some time to do it, but it's like, well, I could do that tomorrow, and I put it off till tomorrow, and then tomorrow when I come in, I get hit with one of those unpredictable changes, and so now I'm stressed and pushed because I didn't go ahead and take care of that, whatever that item was yesterday. So now it gets mixed in with all these things that have to be done. So I create a lot of my own stress by procrastinating when I could go ahead and take an hour and finish that project or finish that paper or write that paragraph instead of putting it off. So a lot of times, you know, I find that that's what leads to the stress and to some of the stress, and you know, and then I get caught in that circle of not being able to get caught up.
Yes, and you bring up a good point. And I did talk about prioritizing and maybe things you can kick down the road a little bit. But yes, you know, there's so many of these self-help resources out there that say, like, if it's something quick, just take care of it, just get it off your plate. And so I tend to use that in my life. It's like, if this email is going to take me about 10 seconds to respond, I'm just going to take care of it now and clear it out of my inbox. And so yes, there is definitely that tactic of, if you can get it done quickly, just take care of it. Maybe not during that protected time. You know, we want to try to avoid those little distractions so that we can focus on those bigger things. But yeah, I think you make a really good point. And procrastination, I think we all struggle with that. I don't think anybody's perfect on that at all. There was a really good comment in the chat. I was just reading. It said, I think about how this issue, in quotes, will be viewed 1 year from now. Is it really that important? That's a really good point. And we actually talked a lot about that in the recent journaling session that we did. Is sometimes writing down our thoughts and our feelings helps us process sort of the stress around something. And sometimes by doing that, we realize that the stress is actually bigger than the thing we need to get done. And so, you know, also just being really in touch with where our stress is coming from. Are we making something a bigger deal than it actually is? So we just, you know, get it out of the way and get it done and clear our plate so that we can move on. But yeah, is it really that important? Try to see it from the future perspective. I like that a lot. Faye said, I'm a freak about organization, so I already make lists. So do I. And I get a lot done, but there's always way more than I can do. I think my thing is that I need to focus on taking protected time. Yeah, I struggle with that too. I think we all do. I mean, even just preparing for this presentation, I thought, okay, I'm going to sit down and dedicate my time. And then I didn't take my advice, and I kept seeing my emails pop up, and I thought, oh, I'll just check my email and get that done. And that works sometimes, but other times it just gets really distracting. So yeah, that protected time is really important. I think there's a feature on our Gmail accounts here at UCA where you can pause your inbox, so you won't even see it come in until a certain point that you indicate. So you might want to check into that. That's a really good tip. Anybody else? Rebecca says, best thing I've done is to just close email all the way off and focus for even just a short time. Yeah. I think that we've all I think email has become our ball and chain, especially with like a mobile device now. We're constantly, I mean, I admit I walked a window earlier to just pick up something that I had printed, and I was checking email on the way while I was walking. So there, you know, again, there's always those opportunities to just say, you know what, I'm just going to take this time while I'm walking to clear my head and focus just on taking a few moments, and it can wait. Because in the end, if we burn out, because that's really at the heart of this message, right? If we burn out, we're not going to have anything left. So why not take care of ourselves in the meantime as we go along, so we're able to give more and able to give longer for the people that we serve. Okay, so I also want, this is kind of a negative angle question, what are your barriers? Let's go to the positive. So what are we already doing well in this area? What are your tips for work-life balance? We just talked about one, that sometimes you just shut off the email. That's great. Are there any other tips that you have? I know that we're doing things well in this area, so I'd love to hear them.
I think that something another faculty member shared with me a long time ago was to make a box. And she said, you know, because I mentioned in the chat that I have a hard time saying no. And so that's really helped me whenever I put, you know, what my yearly goals are, scholarship and, you know, all of the service and things like that. And it's like, if it doesn't tie back into my box and I can't fit it underneath something in my box, then is it really necessary this year? And so I listened to a podcast from a lady that creates planners, and she walks you through how to say no if that's a challenge that you have. And so it's not no forever, it's just no for right now. And so kind of putting it in that box perspective, if it doesn't fit, then maybe next year I can work on that project, but it just doesn't meet the needs that I have for my yearly goals this year.
I love that. Thank you. Yes, yes. That is one thing I came across in my research also, is that a lot of faculty take that approach, is that they set their goals. So I talked about wellness goals, but you also have to have your career goals. And that's really important too. And so, yeah, if you're asked to do something and it's optional, because we know it's not always optional, right? But if it is optional, does that fit with your priorities? And if not, then it's okay to say no. And thank you for saying that, because it is, yes, that is a big part of this, is learning to say no. And a lot of us don't like doing that, especially at UCA, right? We're a great community. We want to serve. We're always trying to go the extra mile, but it is a very healthy thing to say no. Again, when you don't have time, when you literally you cannot add anything else, when it throws off your balance, or when it doesn't really meet the needs for your career goals or for your department or for your objectives. Faith said, I created a separate room at home for work, and that way my computer is not in my living room. Way to go. Yes, that's huge. That's huge. I think we're all feeling like now, again, with those blended lines, blurred lines, muddled lines between home and work now, with people, you know, I'm working at home some, I'm working at work some. And so it's just, it's very hard. So I do too. I have a dedicated space at home, and I try to work just at that space and just in my designated times. So yes, even just having that space, even if you're not so good at the designated times yet, at least you know, okay, I'm not going to work away from that workspace. And so if you feel the need to get work done, at least you have to physically get up and go to that space. So it makes it a little bit tougher to dive into a work project while you're at home. Rebecca said, I hate to talk a lot. No, this is good. Not at all. She said, I did learn that if I start my day, for me, cycling, then I'm a much better person at work. It may have to happen at 5 a.m., but I write in my planner as a priority. Yes, yes, that's great. That's really great. And again, if anybody has wellness goals like that, and you're not sure where to start, that SMART wellness goal planning sheet that I can get out to you is really wonderful. It literally walks you through the steps of like, okay, what do you want to do? When do you want to do it? Who are you going to do it with if it involves like a friend or family support? Like how many days a week? Like you have to have your plan. That is just key for success. So I love that. And good for you for waking up at 5 a.m. to go cycling. That's awesome. Anybody else? Oh, yay. She said it helped her with her Be Well score improve this year. That's awesome. That's great. That is really great. Any other tips and tricks? I loved when I was researching, there was all these ideas out there, but then I thought there's so many things probably specific to our community here at UCA that work and don't work. So I'm glad that you guys have shared things specific to your life here and working here, which is great. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss anything in the chat. Sometimes it scrolls past me. Okay. I don't see anything else. There is just a couple more things I wanted to get to. So I did put together a little web page. Right now it just has 3 links on it, but I think they're really, really good resources. So if you go to uca.edu/bewell/faculty wellness, I've posted some time management tips from some of our colleagues at different universities across the United States. So there's some from Cornell and Carnegie Mellon, there's some from Case Western, and there's some from South Carolina, I believe, on there. They're really good. There's even one specific to new faculty. So if you're a new faculty member and you're just kind of getting in there this semester and kind of don't know where to start, there's some really, really excellent tips there about just how to structure your routine. And again, as a staff member, not coming from the faculty side, reading it was just very eye-opening to me, and all the different things that you have to figure out. Like, there's such a balance that has to happen for you to be able to teach your classes and do your research and be on committees and do those things that you're all asked to do. So please take the time to check those out. They're all PDFs, so you can download them or print them out real easily. I do have a references page here. I'll get these slides out to the Center for Teaching Excellence so they can email those out to you in case you want to look into any of the resources. And this is my contact information. So if you have a question, need to get connected to any wellness resources, I always say too, if you're really struggling in this area and it's become really too hard to handle, like you're just feeling like the balance is completely out of whack and you need some assistance, don't be shy. We do have the Employee Assistance Program here at UCA. It's no cost to you and your immediate family members to utilize. So we have licensed mental and behavioral health specialists. You can meet with them either in person or on the phone, or they do video conference. It's a popular option. You can find that on our website, uca.edu/bewell. And there's a tab on our page for the Employee Assistance Program. So you can check that out also. Any final thoughts or questions, comments? Well, I enjoyed this discussion. Thank you all for joining me today. And we will have session 3 coming up in November. And the topic is resiliency and mental wellness. And a lot of our discussion will be centered on the appropriate way to check in with your colleagues on a regular basis. And again, that's just another way we can support that culture of wellness and health here at UCA. So that is all for today. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.